Hi everyone and welcome to the session. My name's Liz Hardwick and I am a digital productivity specialist, a digital trainer and an award-winning international professional speaker, both in person and virtual. I'm based in the UK and today I'm going to share with you my important top tips on digital productivity for boosting your speaking business. So without further ado, I'm going to share my slides and we're going to get straight into the content. So a great place to start with this is figuring out if you've ever felt like this. I hope I'm not alone in ever feeling overwhelmed. There's too much to do. A decision fatigue also at the moment as well. Do you find it hard to make just the smallest of decisions? Because that might be part of the overwhelm that you're feeling. You can't necessarily prioritize things and you feel like you don't necessarily know what to do next. Well, that was me 2 years into setting up my digital training business, DigiEnable, and I felt like I needed to do something about it. I read every single book that was about productivity that I could get my hands on, and I downloaded over 300 digital productivity apps, tried and tested, and hopefully I'm going to share some of those top ones with you today. So having a think if that ever has applied to you, I do hope it does. Figure out if that's something that you can actually manage. And that was 2 years into running my training business. 10 years on, nearly now, I'm not feeling that overwhelm much at all now. I feel like I've got processes in place that help me run my job, run my speaking business, also volunteer. Do you volunteer at different organisations? You've got lots of plates spinning at the same time. That can be a way of trying to manage your time straight away. So you've got some top tips for you there today. My background is I've spent 20 years working in broadcasting and digital media as well. And for me, that was always a really clear set deadline to things. If I didn't do my work by a deadline, we had dead air. We had nothing to broadcast. So very much that overwhelm came in when suddenly I had less deadlines and less strict dates to have to work to. So thinking about how your plates are spinning, all the things that you've got to do within a week, how can you achieve those and how can you really maximize your time most wisely? So having a think about that, first off, I wanted to share with you the Pareto principle. Now, some of you might have heard of this before, but the concept is 80% of your results come from 20% of your actions. So for me, take this cake, for example, I break that down into 80% of procrastination, faffing, which is my definite word for never getting anything done, and also not delegating. If you've got a team behind you, if you've got maybe a virtual assistant doing the admin and the bookings for your speaking business, are you choosing not to delegate when you do have the capacity to? And then the other 20% is actually the getting stuff done. So as much as possible, we want to focus on the 20% tasks that are actually helping us achieve our goals. So one way to reflect on this is to actually think about tracking all of your time for a week. I do this every so often, especially if my schedule has changed or I'm working from home. Different situations, it's good to be able to reflect and review how you're spending your time. So what I'd suggest is if you're a pen and paper person, get out your diary and try and annotate what you're doing every 30 or every 60 minutes so that you can say what you actually got done. Was it that you ended up spending too much time in your emails, in that overflowing inbox? Or is it something that you've ended up taking a phone call for a client? If stuff is planned, or if it's not planned, put it all in there and annotate that time. And if you're not a paper or pen person, a good app to be able to use, and especially for those of you working virtually and spending a lot of time on computers and laptops, this app is what I'd recommend. It's called Rescue Time. And it's a great one to be able to store on your laptop, store on your devices. It runs in the background and it tracks everything that you're doing. So it can be really helpful to get the information on what apps you're using, what programs you're spending too much time in, and it can even go down to the granular level of what websites are you spending your time on. It also has the ability to choose to say whether a website is productive or unproductive. So a website for me might be productive, but actually might be a big distraction to you. So it enables you to edit as you go with that one. So again, that's a way of tracking yourself for maybe a week, maybe a month, and seeing where your time zaps are. Where are you finding that your time is draining away from? This is where the 80% of the procrastination and the faffing comes in. And hopefully, once you've reviewed what you're actually doing with your time currently, you can then start to move forwards and change the way that you're working time wise. So, my next top tip is one of the best processes that I have found ever. This is what enables me to go down from a 5-day working week into 4 days. I try not to work Fridays. So for me, this is a really great process that I highly recommend. I use it daily myself. And this one is from the 1980s and it's called Pomodoro. For those of you who recognize the Italian phrase is tomato, so that's where there's the tomato timer from the 80s, if you remember those kitchen timers that ticked really loudly. Well, the process for this is working single focused for 25-minute sections and then having 5 minutes off. Especially if you're working on your laptop, maybe you're doing some admin, maybe you're contacting some clients, step away from your computer, go and get some fresh air, go and make yourself a coffee, and then come back to that. And then repeat that 25-minute, 5-minute process 4 times, then have a larger break. If you're running a full day working virtually and working from a laptop, that could end up being 4 Pomodoros in the morning, have a longer lunch break, and then 4 Pomodoros in the evening, in the afternoon. So have a think about if you can make that work for you. I highly recommend you try it out. Even if maybe you've tried it before, definitely have a go with this one. And what I find makes it so much easier is the digital productivity element of it. So in its own, you could have a physical kitchen timer and do it that way. I find the tick, tick, tick really annoying though, so I want to switch that off. But there are apps that are out there to be able to help you with the Pomodoro process. The one that I highly recommend is the Pomodone app. There is a free version of it. There is a pro paid version too. This enables you to track your time. So each Pomodoro, you can set your timer and it will automatically set the time for 25 minutes and 5 minutes. If you find once you've been practicing this process that 25-minute time slots don't work for you, feel free to change those time durations, make it your own. This app is really great because it links with loads of other third-party apps. So if you use project management apps like Trello or Asana, if you use to-do lists, my favorite to-do list is called Todoist. And what I do is I link my Todoist app, which has all my to-do lists on, and then I can choose from a pull-down menu within Pomodoro app which task I want to work on now and set how many Pomodoro time slots I actually want to use to work on it. And then I go one step further and I link that via Google Calendar. And every time my Pomodoro app finishes, it writes a note in my Google Calendar saying what task I've done and when. So again, streamlining all these processes means that you can have a really quick way to actually get tasks done, note them, annotate them, and go on to the next one. So I really hope you try that one out, if nothing else. So my next tip is scheduling everything. In my world, if something's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. Just like you might put an appointment or a booking in your calendar, make sure you're booking time in with yourself. Are you booking the time that you're spending doing your marketing, your PR, your press? Are you spending time in your calendar booking in your finances? Also, all the personal stuff, when you're going to the gym, when you're going for walks, when you're doing fitness, I'm an absolute lover of yoga, so I book those in there as well. Remind yourself of people's birthdays, when you need to do things. I mentioned that Todoist app before. I also have the ability to put my tasks inside my calendar as well, so I can see my schedule at a glance and also the tasks that I need to do and when. So again, have a think about those. Make sure you're scheduling everything and make sure you're giving priority to everything in an equal way. When we have meetings, generally we wouldn't cancel them. So then why, when we get busy, do we cancel all the meetings with ourselves? So when do we cancel the yoga session or the meditation session that we might have planned? So make sure everything's got a level pegging. So a couple more things to think about calendar-wise. Have a look at doing a weekly plan. I do my weekly plan for the following week on Sunday afternoon. I feel like I'm quite relaxed and I can take it at a really nice pace. It might be that you also want to do that first thing Monday morning to get ahead on the week. And then I would highly recommend a monthly schedule in terms of the first Monday of the month and looking forwards that way. White space. So this means having space in your calendar, making sure that you don't book your appointments and your speaking gigs back to back to back. One of the key things around virtual speaking is because we can speak around the world from one place, it can be really easy to say yes to loads of speaking gigs all in the same day. But make sure you're not overbooking yourself. Make sure that you're thinking about your energy levels and whether you're really going to be able to provide your best gig after you've five from the day. So have a think about that. Make sure if you have got space that you don't feel like you need to book it in, or if you're already doing this and you feel like you're failing, actually book out some time in calendar that says do not book in this space. I've started to do that because if I have space, I want to put things in it. As I mentioned before, scheduling everything. You might want to also calendarize the type of work that you do. This is called calendar blocking. So if you want to do loads of phone calls, try and block them all together. Try and say, I'm going to have 2 hours on a Monday morning to call all my clients back, or follow up with invoices on a Thursday afternoon. So try and collect all the different tasks together. That way, once you're making phone calls, it's a lot easier to keep the momentum of doing the same thing rather than keep flitting from one idea to another. It might be that you also are co-working in the space with other people. So make sure that you allocate do not disturb time. So make it clear to other people in your location that you're not available at these particular times. If you're sharing calendars with your team members, make sure that it's really clear and obvious that you're not to be disturbed at particular times. Using a calendar and sharing it can be the easiest way to do this. And I mentioned before about my work in broadcasting prior. This soft deadlines really helps me. It's also kind of where the Pomodoro process comes from as well. So what I'm doing is I'm continuously trying to gamify my working day. So say I want to do one Pomodoro of emails. I've set my 25-minute deadline to try and achieve an empty inbox, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But that is a soft deadline for me. It's not something that is necessarily absolutely crucial or live broadcasting urgent or an appointment where we have to be there and ready to go. So have a think about what soft deadlines are like to you. If you have a deadline for having all your prep in to a particular client for a particular gig, give yourself a few days before as a soft deadline so that if things get busy, you can still aim towards that soft deadline, but then you've got a buffer of time for if you don't get it done, you've given yourself a bit of leeway rather than having to then work nights and weekends to make sure you've delivered on that particular piece of work. So hopefully those are some really useful tips for you. And social media management. I appreciate some of you are doing your own social media and some of you might have a team to do that for you. But again, it's one of those items in the calendar that you do want to schedule. You want to make sure that you're scheduling time to create and post content. It might be that you're actually scheduling content out in advance, but you still have to create it at some point. Normally, I would choose to do this on a Monday morning so that, again, I've sort of planned the week out in terms of content. Planning some time to engage and respond. One of the biggest top tips on social media when I speak on that topic is the big question of why am I not getting any engagement? And the biggest answer to that is you're not necessarily asking a question. You need to have a conversation on social media. So try and start conversations, try and jump into conversations, try and ask questions of other people so that you can get people engaged. And definitely book out some time for social listening. If you're not doing this already, and don't worry, only 20% of people are actually doing social listening, but that's about going and seeking out the opportunities rather than waiting for people to come to you, using social media as a research tool to go and find those perfect conferences you want to speak at, the perfect press release or TV opportunity that you want to jump onto. If you're using social media in a social listening way, you can keep an eye on what other people are saying about you and the events that you're speaking at as well. So schedule in all those different time blocks as well. And talking about scheduling, I wanted to share with you this platform, Hootsuite.com. This is what makes all the social listening a lot easier and the scheduling of the posts. So with Hootsuite.com, it's free up to 3 different platforms, and then there's a paid option again. So with this, what you want to do is you want to look at scheduling your posts across a week, which some of you are probably already doing. But this one is where we would also use social listening. So you'll notice there's some different columns, and you have the ability to choose different hashtags to follow. So things like hashtag journo request. If you haven't already looked at that, definitely check that out. That's where lots of journalists ask for people to do radio interviews, TV interviews, newspaper and online interviews as well. So if you aren't already using that as an opportunity to promote yourself, definitely check that out. But you'll notice on my screen that I've got a column that relates to that. And that helps me keep track really easily of the appointments, the advertisements, and the potential opportunities that might be available. But you'll notice here as well, I've got hashtag journo request, but also I've added in the phrase digital. Because actually what I want to do, and there is thousands of journo requests a day, so I want to filter that down slightly for people who are asking for people who want to talk about digital, because that's my thing, that's what I'm known for, and that's what I would like to speak on if the opportunity is available. I've used this to get lots of press opportunities for local radio, for national radio in the UK, and some interviews on different podcasts and blogs around the world. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. And Hootsuite does a lot of this stuff for you. Add yourself a column, choose the hashtag you want to follow, and then just keep an eye on that column. Every time there's something new that comes in that's relevant to your search term, it will pop into that column there. So definitely worth looking at. So anyone got overflowing inboxes? If you aren't already using a PA or a VA, you might find that you're overwhelmed with this, and that's fair enough. I've definitely been there. There's lots of email processing systems out there, and Zen for Inbox is one that I've created. It's for more stressful times. It's for those ones that don't feel that they're ever going to achieve inbox zero, but making it a bit more achievable. So a couple of top tips for that. Only ever check your emails when you're ready to action them. So try not to get distracted by notifications that pop up on your phone saying this particular person's just emailed you. If you're doing something else, don't get yourself distracted by that. Choose different points at the day to be able to check in with your emails. I would suggest doing a first pass of your emails every morning to see if there's anything super important. I do this as part of my social media and email inbox processing in the morning. I'd also recommend you have an actions needed folder. So you do your first pass of your inbox, and anything that's actually needing an action, pop it in that actions folder straight away. And then a couple of times a day, check if there's anything that you can now action on inside that actions needed folder. And there's loads of other stuff on that. That's a session in itself. But hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how to process your emails, and only choose when you want to process your emails. Don't get distracted by those notifications. Okay. So I would highly recommend, especially if you're working with lots of different international people and lots of different time zones, I would recommend Blue Mail. So Blue Mail is an app that works with most email systems, and it's free to use, again, to a certain extent. And then if you want the pro version, then you would pay for it. I'm still using the free version. It works for me, and it enables me to schedule emails for later. So if I'm in a different time zone to you and I want you to receive my email at a reasonable time in your early morning, then I would want to figure out the time zone with that and change that accordingly. So this can be really good to pop up reminders that you've had an email and that you need to action on it as well. And there's lots of filters. So you can filter your emails down to, you'll see that people switch. So we'll only actually view your emails from real people rather than maybe newsletters or info@email addresses. So definitely worth having a look at that one. It can also be really useful to use apps such as TimeBuddy. I absolutely love TimeBuddy to figure out what international time zone someone else is in and what you're in and what the time difference is. With TimeBuddy app, the free one, you can choose 3 time zones, but you can remove them and add them at any one time. So that can be also really useful for your calendars. And my favorite calendar app is also called Business Calendar 2. That's again a free, but I have the paid for version for that because I use that all the time. And with the time zones, you can choose your home time zone, but it can also display lots of different time zones. So you can choose your local time and you can choose your home time zone as well. And then that can link in with your email processes as well. So then you can choose when you want to remind yourself via your calendar, when you want to send an email at the particular time that you want someone to receive it on their local time zone. So have a think about how that might work for you as well. You'll also notice that if you start to try and target other people's home time zones, you'll get much more of a quicker open rate and response. So thinking about, rather than you sending at 10 p.m. in the evening their time, they're receiving it, they probably won't look at it till the following day. If they've also got overflowing inboxes, their email's going to disappear pretty quickly. So have a look at the time zones, think about what's best for them to receive that email and target accordingly. So another process for you, getting things done. This was a process created by David Allen in 2001. So again, a long time after the Pomodoro. And this one is really useful in terms of looking at your inbox, because straight away you decide, is it actionable? Is it something that I need to do something about? If it's not, it might just be you want to put it in the rubbish, in the trash. It might be that you want to put it on a someday maybe list. Again, with to-do lists again, don't make too many lists, but you might want what I would call a blue cloud, blue sky thinking list, where it's an idea, it's a concept, but I'm not ready to actually think about it yet. But I don't want to forget that idea, so I put it on that sort of list. And also you might want to think about an archive folder for your inbox. So you're not deleting those emails, but you're getting them out of your inbox and into a reference folder or into an archive folder. And the biggest thing with getting things done is, if it's a single step, do it now. If it will take no more than 2 minutes, do it now, do it then. That's why when I mentioned before about the emails, only open your email inbox when you're ready to actually action on things. And this goes hand in hand as well, because if you've got, and I always say 5 minutes rather than the suggested 2, because I think, what can we do in 2 minutes? So I normally say, if I can do it in 5 minutes, that's enough time to actually get stuff done. And that avoids more procrastination, because if it is only a 5-minute action and you put it on your to-do list and you say you're going to do it later in the week and then you don't, and then you keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it further on, then you start to feel overwhelmed by it. And then it becomes much more of a bigger task than you ever thought it was. And if you've ever tried this and then afterwards gone, oh, it was only a 5-minute job after all that, if you've ever felt like that, then you've got that kind of snowball effect there. So this is what this can help avoid. If it's more than 2 minutes, is it a thing for you, or does someone else need to be involved in that process? Is it something that you're using a speaker booker and there's a bit of to-ing and fro-in? You can't just book something in straight away. There's a conversation to be had. Does that need to go into a separate folder, maybe called waiting for? You might have particular clients that you work with, so you have a different folder for each client. That can get a bit messy if you've got lots and lots of clients to deal with, but again, that's a folder management process that's definitely worth spending some time on. So have a think about all of those things, and then if it's got a date and a time, think about putting it into your calendar, or think about putting it into your task list. A great app to go hand in hand with the getting things done process is Nirvana. It works on pretty much all platforms and computers and tablets as well, so I'd highly recommend that. Again, it's another free one with an upgrade if you want to go for the pro version. So I wanted to just finish off by sharing with you some of the opportunities that we've got going on at DigiEnable, and this hopefully sort of gives you a what next step. So after today, I hope you take away some of those ideas and action them into your daily life. And to help, we've got a few e-learning modules. We've got an e-learning platform that you can get involved with. There's some paid for modules on there, but there's also some freebie downloads as well. Things like your morning routine checklist, which can be a productivity booster in itself. We talked about what I do on a Monday morning, and that could be something that you think about creating yourself there. So check out that if you're interested, and go to the link there. I'll also pop a link in the page that I will share here. So if you want all the notes and the reference links and the apps that I've shared today, go to www.digienable.com/VSAI. And if you'd like to get in contact with me, my top social media platforms to get in touch with me on are Twitter and Instagram. So I hope that's been really helpful for you. I've really loved sharing my top tips with you. If you have any questions or any problems, please email me, liz@digienable.co.uk, and I look forward to seeing you virtually or in person again soon.